Hello, my name is Tanya Savva and I am a Rebirthing Breathwork practitioner. This video is designed to introduce you to the practice of Rebirthing Breathwork, explain what can happen through the process, where it began, and what you can expect afterwards. Rebirthing Breathwork was created by a gentleman named Leonard Orr, and it's a practice that he developed over a period of about 15 years. It was first created when he had an urge to get out of the bath. He realized that every time he wanted to get out, if he chose to resist that urge to leave the comfort of the warm bath and stay a little bit longer, he would organically fall into this natural rhythm of conscious connected breathing. And I'll explain a little bit about conscious connected breathing soon. When he fell into this practice of the conscious connected breathing, he then regressed to feeling like he was in his mother's womb. The containment of the bathtub and the warmth and the water essentially replicating being in the mother's womb. And it generated birth regression, experiences of rebirthing, and experiencing his first breath. According to the philosophy of Rebirthing Breathwork, Leonard Orr's belief was that our birth is our first trauma. We go from being in the sacredness of the safety and containment of the womb into the world. Many of us have our umbilical cord cut off right after birth, which instantly eliminates our life force that we've been accessing for 9 months in the womb. We can get hit. There is trauma through birth. Perhaps we needed emergency cesarean, we weren't getting enough oxygen, maybe there was a cord wrapped around our neck, a multitude of things that can happen through the birthing process. And we come out into this world as in human form, take this huge, shocking, life, air-giving breath, and it's considered our first trauma. In the philosophy of Rebirthing Breathwork, there are many traumas. They call them the 9 big T's or big traumas. Including things like abuse and abandonment, rejection from the parents, adoption, and then of course things like bullying, physical trauma, sexual trauma. But of course, not all traumas have to be big and catastrophic to be held in the brain and stored in the subconscious as a negative experience. Rebirthing Breathwork is designed to help us bypass the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of our brain that helps us to think, to plan, to consider, to remember, to foresee things in the future. So we're going to bypass prefrontal cortex, tap into the subconscious mind, which is the driving force for most of the way we show up in the world. 95% of the things that we say, do, act, think, and show as an expression of ourselves in the world is actually being driven by these subconscious belief systems, these imprints in the brain. And so through the process of Rebirthing Breathwork, we are essentially tapping into and unlocking this stored information in the subconscious mind, but also held in the body. We now know through a lot of research and science that the body stores information through life. It is literally recalled and remembered in our cells. And unless that information has been fully integrated and discharged and we've returned back to a state of balance, equilibrium, and ease, that information remains locked in our body. Rebirthing Breathwork is designed to be a minimum of 10 one-on-one breathwork sessions because it can take at least that many to unlock the breathing mechanism that was perhaps challenged at birth. And it can take that many times before we really lock into the capacity to be self-governing in the Rebirthing Breathwork process and not need a facilitator to keep reminding us to come back to the breath. I offer group breathwork sessions so that everybody has an opportunity to be exposed to the work and to create community in healing. For me personally, I've done a lot of my healing work on my own, quite isolated, and it's a real challenge. So the Rebirthing Breathwork journeys in a group setting, for me, really are designed to introduce you to the work and to create a safe community-based healing circle. So, the breathing mechanism, it is very simple. The breath work is through, in and out of the nose. At times the nose can get quite blocked and we can get quite sticky through the sinuses, in which case if you can't physically breathe through the nose, breathe through your mouth. But it is designed to be done through the nose. Why? Because as babies, we only breathe through the nose unless there is some trauma to the facial structures or we're unwell. The breath is quite full. We're breathing into the belly and the chest. And the breath is quite quick. If you ever watch a newborn baby breathe, they tend to be chest breathers. And the breath is quite fast, almost like a balloon, inflating and deflating quite quickly. It can be a little challenging to sustain a fast-paced breath, and it's okay if you go a little bit slower. For me, I'm going to demonstrate how I particularly breathe when I go into a rebirthing breathwork practice. We're always laying down in comfort and ease. I like to think of the breath bringing up the front, and then there is no control and slowing of the breath down. We're avoiding a control of the exhale. It's a breath in and a letting go. A breath in and a letting go. A breath in and a letting go. And so it looks like this. Just 10 or so breaths is enough to ignite inflammation in my body. The other really important piece is that you're not pausing at the top or the bottom of the breath. Usually when we breathe in, there's a gentle pause, and then we breathe out and there is a gentle pause. We're going to eliminate the pause and create this cyclical motion of breath, which is why it's called conscious connected breathing. Conscious because we're aware of it, connected because there is no beginning and no end, and we're creating this cyclical pattern. It can be hard work. It is called breath work for a reason. But what can happen, and what usually does happen, is once we've dropped out of this thinking brain that says, need to breathe in, need to breathe out, need to breathe in, need to breathe out, and you're getting yourself into this rhythm, we drop out of this prefrontal cortex of the brain, we tap into the subconscious where there is a more and a much broader sense of expansion, and then the body just automatically breathes itself and you no longer have to think about it. So that's the mechanics of the breath work, and we're doing that for an hour. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it can go on for an hour and a half. Some people have breathed for over 2 hours and they're just naturally in the rhythm of breath, and the medicine of the breath is doing its work. What can happen physically? Lots of things, and also sometimes nothing. You might just lay very still, very peacefully, and all that's happening is your body is breathing and the energy is breathing itself. That is completely normal, and ultimately we get to a place where we can be that still. I am personally a very physical breather. My body shakes and rattles and shifts and shimmies and moves quite a lot. It is also very normal. So you might feel a lot of sensation inside the body, tingling, vibration. You might feel very hot. You might feel very cold. It's always really good to bring a little blanket. You can get tension and tightness and pain, but not excruciating pain, but pain in the body. Essentially, the breath is saturating your cells with information of energy, of life force. In yoga, we call it prana. In Chinese medicine, we call it qi. In Japanese medicine, we call it reiki. We are bringing this life-giving energy in the air that we breathe and saturating our cells with it. Through that process, any information that's been held and stored in our cells is given space to move out. And so the big sensations, the movement, you might shake. I always get a really shaky right shoulder. You might shake. You might literally feel your hands cramping and moving. You might feel your arms moving out. You might feel your head wobble. You might feel your chest shake. You might feel like you're levitating. You can feel like you're literally connected and stuck to the floor. All of these things are normal and very temporary. There is something called tetany, which is where there is a stronger contraction in the muscles and they get stuck there. Promise you, you won't leave your breathwork session with your hands stuck. Quite often, if you get tetany in your hands, and I did for quite a long time, it is connected to the energetic pathways of the heart. So think of anything being connected and contracted in the hands as a releasing of anything that's been trapped in the heart. From a consciousness perspective, you can sometimes tap into this almost dreamlike state. You might be so out of your thinking mind that you feel like you've been asleep. You can have memories of your own life and others. You can connect with loved ones that have passed, or even gods and deities that you're connected to in your life. You may experience incredible states of deep bliss, peace, joy, love. You may also remember challenging times in your life. It's just fleeting. It will come and it will go. As we're using the breath and we're just breathing freely, this information is coming forward to be free. It's releasing. Think of it like shaking out anything that's stored unnecessarily and for too long in the body. There's nothing to be scared of. It is all very normal. I'm there with loving, intuitive guidance and support to help you. At times I may put my hands on your body if I'm with you physically. At times I may ask you questions, talk. The other thing that can happen is emotion release. Ultimately, at all stages of our lives, there have been moments where we've felt big feelings and not felt safe to feel them. Breath work invites a really safe and sacred place for emotion to release. Crying, laughing, screaming, feeling really angry, rage. The full spectrum of the human emotions can come through. I imagine that this vessel, this beautiful human body, is holding the memory of every moment we've ever lived. And as we breathe, we're shining a little light. I imagine every in-breath is like a torch and it's just shining into every cell in the body. And it's like, oh, what have we got in here? And the light gets it and it comes forward and then it just goes. I have a PDF, a document which describes all of this. It's really important at the end of your breath work that you nourish yourself. It can be really nice to get into water. Super important to be earthed on the ground, barefoot if you can. Drink lots of really filtered water. Eat really nourishing foods. Stay away from processed foods. Try and stay off your phones, devices and things like that. Meditation is super valuable. Journaling is really, really valuable, super important. I would really encourage you to journal your experience as soon as you're finished and in the days afterwards. In the days following, some things can happen. You can feel really connected and really peaceful and very centered. And in that state, it can be a little challenging to deal with anything that doesn't hold the same vibration. So if people are aggressive or annoying or irritating, you might feel that a little more. You can be a little bit more sensitive to the world around you. So super important to just create some time for yourself to just keep coming back in, to checking in, to finding rest and peace. It can be a little upsetting for your sleep. Sometimes as you go into sleep after you've breathed, you can feel like you're journeying again. So you can either tap into the breath a little bit until you fall asleep, or you can just try and fall asleep. Your dreams can be quite vivid. And you might gain insights into yourself and your life. And in the breath work, if something clicks and you go, oh my gosh, yes, that's why I do that. That's why I behave this way. You might gather information about yourself and the people around you through the breath. If that happens, what can happen when you go back out into the world is the world offers you an opportunity to see it really clearly in human world, in human function, in the way that you live your life. So it's an opportunity for you to just sort of sit back, be curious, watch as things unfold, because life is just this constant unfolding. And I believe the breathwork is one of many tools that gives us this invitation and opportunity to see a little clearer. Hope that's been super helpful. If you have any questions, you can email me. It's tanya@tanyasavva.com, and I look forward to seeing you.